And for those of you who are wondering about voting for the Greens and wondering about the
federal election, October 2004.
I would remind you that the Greens are now polling.
Intelligence community whistleblower Andrew Wilkie is running as a Greens candidate in John Howard's seat of Bennelong on Sydney's genteel lower North Shore.
Questions, comments, feel free to stand up and say what you want.
But as he finds out, it's not always so genteel. He's about to meet members of the exclusive brethren.
You tell us something about yourself, your marital status, your religion, your family, your background.
There was a large group of young men who were very disruptive, very threatening, very aggressive. They disrupted the meeting. We all felt threatened enough that we made a point of leaving the meeting in groups, not wanting to be outside alone.
To answer the question, what are you trying to do to get the parliament for?
There was no violence, but as you know, people can behave in certain ways that leave you feeling physically threatened.
Andrew Wilkie says Brethren members ran anti-Green ads in the local press and letterboxed the electorate. Mr Wilkie says the ads were misleading and those funding them were not properly identified.
Yeah, the point here is not whether a religious group was running a political campaign. The point here is that a religious group was clearly crossing the line between acceptable behaviour and unacceptable behaviour.
But I want to know where you are.
Okay, come with me. When I try to film a Brethren church in Sydney, I experience what Andrew Wilkie is talking about. Despite the fact I'm on a public street, I'm met with aggression.
Now just stand here and witness, because we're going to have a real brawl with this bloke, because he is... Yeah, okay, start taking photos of him.
Please do. The exclusive brethren like to keep to themselves and clearly don't welcome scrutiny.
You're infringing on their right to come in here.
I'm not infringing on any rights.
Yes, you are.
Well, look, you've called the police will be in a minute, I'll tell you what the law is.
Yeah, well, we're just asking you to please leave us alone because we don't want to have you here.
The Brethren believe in an apocalyptic end to the world, the rapture, when they alone will be saved by Christ's second coming. They don't watch television, read novels, listen to the radio, or go to university. They don't eat, drink, or socialise with outsiders. And they certainly don't vote. The anonymity of this church building is typical. No identifying signs or emblems, a fence to shut out outsiders. For 150 years, the Brethren have lived a quiet life in parallel to the rest of society. That is, until now.
And he's outside right now photographing us. He's actually on our property.
Now, many Australians will have never heard of the exclusive Brethren, let alone any political activities associated with the church. But across the Tasman, here in New Zealand, it's been big news. Indeed, the Labor government here has accused the Brethren of engaging in political skullduggery, and it's even floated the idea of changing the law to place greater controls on the church. These pamphlets appeared in New Zealand letterboxes during last year's election campaign. They're highly critical of Labor and especially of the Greens, but some of the authorising addresses were found to be misleading. And because they don't directly advocate a vote for the Conservative National Party, they circumvent electoral laws that cap the amount political parties can spend on advertising.
And it became clear that the pamphlets were, first of all, factually wrong, so they told lies. These are not to do with opinions, these are to do with facts. And secondly, that they were designed to deliver a change of government because they were directed at the Labor Party and the Greens.
The Brethren's connection with the pamphlets was exposed in the final weeks of the election. National Party leader Don Brash dodged questions about the pamphlets.
Did they tell you about their plans for the pamphlet drop?
Okay.
Did they tell you anything about that?
Thanks.
The next day he conceded he did have advanced knowledge of the letterboxing campaign.
The Exclusive Brethren have told me some time back that they were thoroughly fed up with this government and they would be distributing some pamphlets.
We're fundamentalist Christians. We seek to live our life by the Bible.
7 Brethren members held a press conference to defend their actions.
We follow and we are influenced by our Christian beliefs, but it is not an exclusive Brethren church initiative.
A gleeful New Zealand media dubbed the church leaders the Secret Seven.
We hold government to be ordained by God, and governments are raised up and also, might I add, dismissed by God.
They bent the electoral laws so overtly that we will now have to change those laws. That's the...
Pete Hodgson says the Brethren spent $1.2 million on the campaign, 10 times more than any other independent group, and more than half the total cap any one party was allowed to spend.
There has never been third-party financing of that ilk in New Zealand electoral history. Nothing like it.
Then in September this year, a new scandal broke in New Zealand. It was revealed a Brethren member had hired private detectives to dig dirt on senior Labor figures.
I was asked to make inquiries into unlawful activities of the government, the Labor Party in general, to find out what I could and report back. It relates to the Prime Minister, and some of the information relates to her husband.
The rumours put in the public arena are vile, baseless lies.
A furious Prime Minister Helen Clarke accused the Exclusive Brethren of participating in a smear campaign, alleging her husband was a homosexual.
I mean, that is simply creepy. To know that our homes and families were under surveillance because the Exclusive Brethren wanted them to be.
So what's going on inside Brethren churches like this one? Why have members of a sect that has removed itself from society for 150 years, including banning voting, suddenly plunged headlong into politics? So I come here to Auckland's Massey University to find out why politics and why now. Here I meet Associate Professor Peter Lineham, himself raised within the wider Brethren community.
Well, it looks as though the Exclusive Brethren in some sense believe that the government of Bush and Howard and the like can appropriately protect their interests and the interests of Christendom, and only after that will there be the turmoil that will lead to the rapture and the end of the world.
So George Bush and John Howard, in their eyes, are delaying the end of the world?
Yes, George Bush and John Howard in some sense fulfill God's purposes.
And alternately, they'd see Labor and especially the Greens as perhaps accelerating the end of the world.
Yes, very much so. And I have it on pretty good authority that Exclusive Brethren throughout the world are fulminating about Greens policies, which they see Greens as perfidious. They see them as evil in their very essence.
Well, if the Greens are evil, meet the Antichrist.
The elders of the sect told me in this room that John Howard was the right, that is the righteous leader of this country.
But what's wrong with that? What's wrong with the Brethren being involved in politics?
There's nothing wrong with any group becoming involved in politics, and we welcome Christian, Muslim, other groups becoming involved. But the Exclusive Brethren are different. They're secretive, they're sneaky, they lie to the electorate, which has a right to be correctly informed on the way to the ballot box.
During the Tasmanian state election earlier this year, Brethren members wearing masks hauled anti-green slogans through the streets of Hobart. And during the 2004 federal election, they letterboxed the state with these anti-Green pamphlets. They are in many ways identical to these pamphlets that almost delivered power to the National Party in New Zealand the next year.
This is a very surprising change of outlook for the Exclusive Brethren, who would normally have had nothing to do with these concerns.
Peter Lineham says in recent years, Brethren members have also been politically active in the United States, Canada and Sweden.
We can be absolutely confident that no step taken by the Exclusive Brethren in any part of the world would have been done without consultation beyond that. The whole nature of the Brethren, going right back through their whole history, involves that no group can act in isolation from other groups.
This is the Sydney business of Bruce Hales, the worldwide leader of the Exclusive Brethren. It was after his elevation in 2002 that Brethren members stepped up their political activity. John Howard and Peter Costello acknowledge they've met with Brethren leaders, and Brethren members financed this ad supporting John Howard at the last election. It begs the question, how much of its political agenda has the Brethren been able to achieve in Australia? This is an amendment to South Australia's industrial laws passed last year, granting Brethren businesses exemption from union visits. It's a similar story federally.
The industrial relations legislation, which the Howard government put through the Parliament, has an exclusion clause for the Exclusive Brethren, and they've been able to register 30 of their workplaces in Australia as a no-go zone for unions.
Dateline contacted the Brethren leadership in Sydney requesting an interview and faxing some preliminary questions. A week later we received a solicitor's letter on behalf of the Brethren stating,
"The Exclusive Brethren did not spend any amount whatsoever in newspaper advertisements and pamphlets in last year's New Zealand election, nor did it finance any anti-Green material in this year's Tasmanian state election."
The letter also refers to the incident when I was accosted while filming on public property outside the Brethren church.
"I am instructed that if there is any repetition of this conduct, I am to seek appropriate relief from the court against you personally and SBS. This includes applications for apprehended violence orders and an application for a restraining order."
Nari Thomas knows all about the Exclusive Brethren. She wrote a book detailing her years as a church member, back before she was excommunicated. Now she's free to travel in her camper van and indulge in other once forbidden sins, like owning a pet and listening to the radio.
I just love doing all the things that I wasn't allowed to do before. Freedom to make choices is an amazing thing, and once you've got that freedom, you don't want to forfeit it. You don't want to give it up for anything.
Nari believes the Brethren leadership is now setting up new financial structures to help fund its political activities.
I spoke to a Brethren some time ago who told me that he had a fax machine, and I said to him, I thought you weren't supposed to have fax machines. And he says, oh, I don't own it, I rent it off the National Office Assist.
Nari has obtained this confidential document detailing the workings of the Brethren's National Office Assist. It's signed by Bruce Hales and other members of his inner circle. It clearly states one of its aims is to make money.
This initiative will help to provide for the future financial needs of the testimony.
As well as renting equipment to Brethren businesses, National Office Assist will
provide confidential bookkeeping and accounting services without reliance on unsatisfactory worldly subcontract services.
National Office Assist is co-located with the office equipment supply business of Exclusive Brethren leader Bruce Hales. It would enable the Brethren leadership to know exactly how much money each Brethren business is making and presumably what size of donations they can afford.
And Mr Hales has the capability of receiving automatic admission to the board.
Green Senator Christine Mill has raised the power of Bruce Hales and the role of National Office Assist in the Senate.
Is that Mr Hales already seems to have ultimate authority in possibly hundreds, maybe even thousands of exclusive Brethren companies, charities, trusts and enterprises on a worldwide basis. We now have a new initiative called the National Office Assist, which seems to be a global fiscal structure that controls the finances of all exclusive.
What money are you talking about here?
Billions.
Billions?
Billions.
Billions of dollars?
Yeah, worldwide, that is.
Is there any evidence of that? How do you come to that number?
No, I don't have hard evidence of it, but I can do my maths. I'm not too bad at adding things up.